For the first time, the CIA conducted an offensive operation within the Venezuelan territory, attacking a port operated by the Venezuelan gang, the Train of Water. According to official information, this drone attack did not result in fatal victims, but marked the beginning of a more aggressive phase of Trump's campaign against the regime of Nicolas Maduro. The operation that occurred at the end of December was the first known involving the CIA directly inside Venezuela. According to sources informed about the operation, the attack was directed to a cais used by the Aragua Train, one of the most powerful and influential narco-terrorist gangs in the country, with links with several other local groups, including Colombians. The goal of the attack was to destroy an installation where drugs were being stored for later transport by ships, the same ones that the United States have been attacking and destroying in the last months in the Caribbean and the Pacific. This action represents a profound change in U.S. operational policy, whose pressure operations were restricted to international waters, with attacks on drug transport boats and the kidnapping of oil workers under sanctions. Therefore, this CIA operation marks a climb, leaving the maritime domain and penetrating directly into the Venezuelan territory. Since the beginning of his term, Donald Trump has been a fierce critic of Maduro's regime, accusing him of involvement with drug cartels and of being a strategic ally of opponents of the United States, such as Russia and China. Critics that were accompanied by real actions, such as his official designation as a narco-terrorist leader, comparing him in legal terms to terrorist leaders such as Osama bin Laden. And in fact, the reward offered by his capture of $50 million is equivalent in updated values to that offered by bin Laden's capture. The alliance between Maduro and the Aragua Train is seen as a point of convergence, being this gang an important actor in drug trafficking that feeds the regime, appearing as a piece of the so-called Cartel de los Soles, a kind of drug trafficking syndicate that concentrates several Venezuelan and Colombian gangs, an organization that, according to the United States, is managed by Nicolas Maduro himself, with direct support from his generals. Coming from there, the name Cartel de los Soles, with the suns representing the insignia that Venezuelan generals wear in their uniforms. The choice of the drone as an attack means is not new to the United States, which has already used this technology in other regions, such as Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. However, the novelty here is the application of this tactic within a sovereign country like Venezuela, and without the usual coverage of conventional military operations. The question remains if the drone used was from the CIA itself, or if it was borrowed by the U.S. Armed Forces. It is important to remember that the American Armed Forces recently established a base of operations of the MQ-9 Reaper in Puerto Rico, a drone that, despite being operated for almost 20 years, remains the main non-triple offensive medium of the United States. The aircraft has a cruising speed of only 313 kilometers per hour, but an impressive range of almost 2,000 kilometers, more than enough to leave Puerto Rico, travel the 800 kilometers that separate the island from Venezuela, perform attacks, and return safely to base. The Reaper is seen as highly lethal because of its incredible load capacity with 7 hardpoints, where it can carry a wide variety of weapons. From precision bombs, JDAM, GBU-12 Paveway, guided by laser and RR Sidewinder missiles and Artera Hellfire. Basically, a Reaper can transport all the main bombs and missiles of a crewed fighter, being therefore the ideal option for attacks against under-defended targets. Most likely, the Reaper advance was covered by EA-18G Growler electronic warfare fighters from the U.S. Navy. Aircraft that, several times, were spotted flying over the Caribbean with transponder on, making them visible on sites like Flight Radar. But as you can imagine, for such attack missions, the transponder is obviously off, with the Growler activating its electronic warfare systems to hinder communications in the Venezuelan radar systems. To better understand what the Growler does, basically, he throws sand in the eyes of the opponent at the same time as he covers his ears, preventing enemy air defenses from seeing and hearing what is happening in a certain area. Highly important actions for precision attacks involving slow and non-thief aircraft, as is the case with drones like the Reaper. After the attack, Trump publicly confirmed that the United States were responsible for the operation, but avoided going into details about the methods used. The Venezuelan regime, in turn, did not respond directly and immediately to the attack, but Minister Diosdado Cabello, the number two in the dictatorship, reacted with harsh criticism to what he called imperialist madness, highlighting the impact of continuous external pressures such as sanctions, attacks, and threats. This attack marks the beginning of a new route in the course of tensions between the two countries, with the Maduro regime facing increasing pressure from the United States and its regional allies, with many facing the Venezuelan regime as a threat to regional stability, mainly due to its involvement with drug traffickers and links with external forces such as Cuba, Iran, and Russia. This attack on Venezuela is a clear sign that the Trump administration is willing to intensify its operations in Latin America, with the growing military presence of the United States in the region, with drones and intelligence operations, suggesting that Washington is prepared to further increase its actions against Caracas, aiming to destabilize Maduro's regime and cut the flow of drugs and resources that sustain their survival. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. Can you say anything more about the explosion in Venezuela that you mentioned in the radio interview? Did the military do that? Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs. So we hit all the boats and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement. And that is no longer around. I don't want to comment.